Hi, Steve Hayes here, and welcome to Session 12 of Days Are Getting Better. And today I'd like to talk a bit about difficult emotions that show up during the holiday period and how to deal with them before they start. I want to talk also about what's happening in the development of idiographic statistics and measures and analyses, and a little bit of a peek into the future of what it is that we're finding just over the last couple months with very new methods, literally methods that have never existed before, that are helping us to understand how disempowerment happens and how to empower people's lives going forward. So let's start right in. One of the things that I was asked to do, and I did a kind of a survey of folks a little while back, is to talk about how to deal with difficult emotions, and actually was asked to talk about how I deal with some of those emotions. To be honest, I don't like using myself as an example, not so much because I'm trying to maintain privacy, but because I view myself as a work in progress and not a shining example of anything. As I usually say, just ask my wife. But I thought it was a fair request, and I looked at it and tried to think of what would be relevant to this holiday period that we're in. And a story came to mind that I'd never written out, only told to family and close friends. It's just barely mentioned in A Liberated Mind, that book over my shoulder. And so that's what's in the newsletter and in the blog that comes along with this podcast. It's kind of an odd example for the holidays. It's about a period of time where I developed chronic pain around an injury that happened while at work, and the sequence of events that revealed to me what was really going on. It's a lesson that I've carried with me my entire life. I think I was 20 years old when this happened, so it's more than 50 years old. And I hope you can see the relevance. But I want to talk a little bit here about relevance that is kind of a little more obviously a holiday story. Coming into the holidays, however you celebrate them, whether it's Christmas or Hanukkah or Kwanzaa or however you celebrate them, there's very often a range of difficult emotions that show up as part of that process. The holiday time is one that's filled with family memories, and sometimes not all of them are positive. They're filled with expectations of others towards yourself, and towards yourself, whether from yourself, towards others. Often these emotions are complex. They may involve loss or disappointment or disconfirmed expectations or the stress of expectations being put on you. The holidays are the time that we remember people who have passed. The holidays are the time that we come together as a family, as a community, as a group. And sometimes that means spending time with people that we've had conflict in the past or who do things that are difficult for us. Whether it's Uncle George, talking about right-wing politics, or the relative who always criticizes you no matter what you do, or who gives advice about how best to bake that pie or raise that child or avoid that health problem, and on it goes. When you're on a holiday period, these kinds of emotions can get their kind of nose under the tent. And next thing you know, you're focusing on them more. You find yourself leaving the table or the living room and wandering around the house yourself just to get a breather, or maybe being all too focused on that football game when really what you're trying to do is avoid interacting, and so on. So when you're on a holiday, I suggest remember these words: you're on a holiday. And take those first three letters, on a holiday, and let it guide you with a kind of a different way of digging down to a cognitive process that you can manage, you can learn, that will make it a lot easier to stay in the present, to learn to participate, be part of a holiday season with all the things that come with it, and to be the one who decides how it is that you're going to handle those moments. Ana would be O-N-A. And the O stands for observe. I don't mean inspecting in a critical way, but I mean bringing your consciousness into the present moment and allowing yourself to observe what's there inside and out in a way that's unfiltered, that's not a rigged game. The N, let that stand for the process of noting what's there, describing it, seeing it, knowing it. It's not just the process of noticing, that's the O part, but the process of stating mentally what it is that you're even seeing. Now, this is tricky because it's really easy in those statements for a different kind of cognitive process to come in, one that is heavily judgmental. And in fact, that's exactly what this ONA formula is designed to avoid. When we come in to our interactions with this judgmental mode of mind, all of these difficult feelings and memories and emotions begin to run and to lead us in directions that are no longer up to us. So I'm suggesting a kind of process of noting that's sort of like, metaphorically, like the little statues that are at the front, or used to be, at the front of the hoods of fancy cars, kind of, sailing along in the journey, but noticing, observing, and then taking note, like there's that stoplight and there's that right turn, where the edge of what you're connecting with is what's present, allowing an unfolding of the present, a flow in the present, without doing this flinching process of where, like, oh, don't go there, or, oh my goodness, this is going to happen, or where the form of cognition that can easily lead to the kind of flinching judgment is an expectation. Nothing wrong with expectations, but if you can allow them to rise and fall in such a way that you continuously stay in the present, they don't carry you off careening in a direction other than what you choose. And then that final letter, that A, is to acknowledge it. It's just to, when you observe and note what's so, to acknowledge it. Aunt Matilda is going off on a critical rant again. period. Not like, and that shouldn't have happened, and what's wrong with her, and when is it ever going to end, and this is going to go on and on, it's going to totally ruin my Christmas, and that flinch of the judgment process that demands that the present be other than what it is, even when it's perfectly safe and fine. It would, of course, if something's happening or you need to intervene where the situation is wrong in a fundamental or way that violates your values or creates an unsafe condition, okay. But when we're opening up and allowing and acknowledging, two of those A words, we can allow the flow to occur and a kind of appreciation can show up. The final A word I'll put out there. Of actually, if you think about it, sometimes, Aunt Matilda is just, the memories of her make you smile. Even if, at the time, it's a little irritating. Have you ever noticed that when people that you love pass away? After the tears and sadness, sometimes what you find is that you remember and acknowledge the funny things the person does, but even the irritating things they used to do. Telling scatological jokes in front of the whole group. And we kind of smile at it because we're appreciating this process of participating, of being part of something that is a ritual that, while we're alive, allows us to acknowledge the importance of others and the passing of time. And that's what holidays do. So remember that you're on a holiday, and bring those observing and noting and acknowledging and appreciating skills into riding that ride like the hood ornament, this continuous unfolding now. And don't allow your mind to become the flinch that steals Christmas or whatever holiday you celebrate. I want to briefly mention that also in what's happening here, and I'll just put a couple of things in the newsletter. I'll put some QR codes and bit.ly links. We are moving very, very quickly. I say we, myself and my colleagues who are involved in a process-based approach to ACT, but to all of our process-oriented interventions. We are finding new methods now that will allow us to analyze when we take longitudinal measures of processes of change linked to outcomes for clients, that will allow us to take each person one at a time through a set of methods. As you probably know, I've mentioned I have an app coming from a charitable organization I'm president of. I'm not trying to sell anything. I'm just telling you, I don't take any money from the organization, that this is coming. And I will put in a bit.ly link and a QR code to a write-up that we just recently did of a case where we applied some of these methods, not the newest ones that we've just invented. And also a link that allow you, if you're interested in when the app does become available and goes into beta. I have a couple different forms of it, but if you're interested in me reaching out and informing you of it and perhaps asking you to be part of that beta release process, sometimes probably in Q1, could be Q2. It always takes longer than I suppose. I'll give you the link to go and do that. But I'm excited to share this. I was at the Evolution of Psychotherapy, a large psychotherapy conference that happens periodically that was there in Orlando just a couple weeks ago, in Orlando, Florida. And I decided, oh, heck with it. I'm going to see if these methods are actually helpful, and I'm going to do it in front of several hundred people. And we're either going to fish or cut bait. I had a wonderful volunteer who filled out 28 questions 3 times a day and did it for about 3 weeks. And I went the night before. I think I received her last measures at 10 o'clock when I had to be down at the speaker center to upload my slides at 7 in the morning. I entered the data that had been sent and went to a website that we're working we hope to have available when the app comes out to clinicians who want to look at what's going on with their client. And I went through a process of looking first at the psychological flexibility processes, just a 6-item scale that Andrew Gloucester developed, and looking at it several different ways. And very quickly, because of the great work of Joe Sorochi, who is working on the website, and the wonderful kind of analytic work of Bajender Sadhu and Stefan Hoffman, Clarissa Ong, Andrew Gloucester, a whole team of folks looking at these methods. Within just about 10-15 minutes, I could see which of the processes were most important, looking just at a kind of correlation that's legitimate when you're looking within a person over time and you adjust for autoregression, called ARIMA, but applied now to the individual, to look at a machine learning model that looked at the processes as a whole group and allowed, through an iterative process, a random forest process with proper controls for oversampling or overfitting, rather, the model, to see which of the ones are best when they compete as a group. And I knew what the flexibility processes were most important for this outcome that the volunteer had selected. And then proceeded to the process-based assessment tool, a set of items that we've published in the Journal of Contextual Behavioral Science just a little while ago, to see which are the more specific behaviors that predicted those processes. And did those in multiple ways, including a kind of tree analysis, and finally an analysis called GIMME, the Group Iterative Multiple Model Estimation. The exciting thing is that whole process took 35 minutes. Took a couple hours to put it on a PowerPoint. By then it's in the wee hours in the morning. I got to get up early. But when I got there and my volunteer came on stage, who I'd only had just a few minutes of interview with to pick the outcomes that were most important for this. And we went through what they call on HGTV the reveal. I like watching those shows where people do remodeling and then they show the people, what it looks like. And they're on stage in front of several hundred folks. I went through it and the volunteers saying, yes, absolutely, that's true. I hadn't really thought how important that is, but that's so in area after area. And it was a very, very important moment for me, and I think for the arc of the work. Because I figured, let's just risk it. If it doesn't work out, we have to do something different. But if we're heading in the right direction, this should help with an empirical functional analysis that comes not because I've done all the things that are in the learning process-based therapy book, also over my shoulder there, but because the client's data gave an empirical functional analysis that explained how those outcomes happened, when they were positively being managed, and how to target the needs of the person to move them from those downward spiraling processes into ones that are self-amplifying and upward spiraling. So I'm just wanting to share the excitement, to tell you once again, and I'm sure it'll happen going forward, that it's coming. And if you want to be part of it as part of a beta process. Don't expect a lot of emails from me and so forth. You probably won't hear from me at all until we're into the beta process sometime in Q1 or Q2. Just use that bit.ly link. I guess I can say it out loud here. It would be Gimme PBT, all caps, GIMME PBT, no spaces, BIT period LY/Gimme PBT. So I hope you enjoy the newsletter, and I hope you can benefit a little bit from trying to manage the stresses and strains of the holidays so that you can really enjoy this chance to once again mark the passing of time, the importance of others, and take time to relax a little bit, watch a football game, talk to your friends or whatever you do, but see if you can avoid that flinch that steals Christmas. Peace, love, and life, my friends.